Hey guys, and welcome back to Her Revision Podcast, the podcast for women who are rewriting the stories that they tell themselves and that the world tells them. Today's episode is one that stemmed off of a TikTok that I made about self-awareness. So I want to talk to y'all more about it because I truly do believe that we are living in a time where self-awareness is damn near like social currency. It's a subject that we all talk about and something that I feel like has been, I don't want to say over dramatized, but people are beginning to understand the language. They know how to identify wounds and how to explain their patterns, and they know how to sound like they are evolved. And I tested the fact that I am very well versed in my self-awareness. But what I've been noticing both in my life and watching other people is that awareness has started to become like this leadership thing where it's like, because I'm self-aware, that means I know more. That means I am more emotionally sound. That means I am more emotionally mature. And I've had to learn, in a very detailed, deep way that is not the case. That is not the case. I feel like insight, clarity has started to replace the direction of growth. Just because you feel as though you've reached this level of understanding, you feel as though that means that you've executed healthy healing mechanisms, or you're able to explain how you've become a better person. And to an extent, that could be so. But I think that the confusion between those lines is keeping a lot of people stuck in very well articulated cycles. Because when it comes to self-awareness, most self-aware people are very articulate. They know exactly how to name the name. They know exactly how to name the thing. They know exactly how to explain how they feel and how to tell people what they are sensing. They know that. This episode is not about shaming that awareness, because awareness matters 1000%. I love my self-awareness. It is a foundation, though. It is not the end goal. You do not just stop healing. You do not reach this highest level of clarity because you've become self-aware. How self-led are you? Self-leadership is really like the end goal. Until we start being able to tell the truth about the difference between leadership and in your self-awareness, we're going to keep applauding the fact that we've understood, even though you're still in the same place year after year. If I've learned anything about anything when it comes to self-awareness, is that it does give you the ability to see yourself clearly enough to stop living in confusion. That I will say, I'm self-aware enough to know that I now can step outside of my immediate emotional reactions that I used to have, that immediate crash out or that immediate sadness. So, you go into that immediate dark place. I can now recognize patterns instead of just experiencing them, right? When you become self-aware, you start to say things like, this is how I respond when this happens. This is how I respond when I feel unsafe. This is how I respond when I feel triggered. This is what happens when I don't feel chosen. This is how I cope when insert emotion, whatever that may look like, right? And that is the kind of dynamic that you keep recreating. Even when you say that you want something different, you can say, okay, I want to react differently. But because you are only self-aware, you'll just know how to identify when you've reached that point. You don't know how to change it, though. And if you haven't stepped into that understanding, if you haven't realized that there is a difference between being self-aware and being self-led, you'll keep getting to that level of clarity. You'll keep reaching that aha moment. And you think it's a breakthrough. In the beginning, it may be. Especially if you've spent years of your life being a reactive person, especially if you spent years of your life being emotionally led, misunderstood, chaotic with your relationships. It can feel like you've reached this breakthrough, and to an extent that you have, but it is, again, not the end goal. You have to become self-led. Clarity does matter. I do believe that. I believe that you being aware does help you contextualize the reason why you do the shit that you do, or like things that you want to change, instead of you internalizing it as you're a failure, instead of you internalizing it as, you're doomed for life. It gives you language. My ability to be self-aware, my ability to know why I do the things that I do, why I feel the things that I feel, what I can and cannot put up with, it gives me the language that might have at one point felt very isolating to me or confusing, or I don't know why I feel this. It replaces that, right? It replaces that confusion. Awareness for a lot of people is like the first time that you honestly stop blaming yourself without knowing why you're blaming yourself. You start understanding yourself a lot more compassionately. The journey of me becoming self-aware gave me a lot of grace to myself. Whereas before, I didn't give myself a grace at all. I just reacted on impulse because I wasn't a self-aware, because everything else was an external blame. I blamed everything but, being able to look inward. That is progress. Once you reach that point where you start understanding the why behind your choices, your reactions, that is progress, but it's also incomplete. To have the ability of self-awareness it allows you to put shit into words. It's descriptive, but it doesn't give you direction. Okay, you're self-aware. You can name the thing. Now what? Being able to be self-aware is allowing you to say, okay, this is happening. This is why this is happening. But it does not automatically tell you what to do next with that. It can bring light to the pattern. It can bring light to the reason why, but it doesn't actually stop it from happening. Change it. You can't move on from that. It's just bringing it to the surface, essentially. And when people confuse things being brought to the surface with you changing said thing, you will start mistaking that for growth. Because I've identified it, that means that I'm changing. No, that's one step, but that's not the full step. So that's why we keep finding ourselves in the same pattern, being able to name the thing, but not having any change beyond that. Have you ever known why you entertain somebody, or why you keep finding yourself in these certain relationships, but not knowing how to get out of it? So it's like, damn, yeah, I know why, but I'm doing this shit again. Another year, same boat. Another year, same person. Or why you keep finding yourself angry about this one specific thing that keeps happening. Whenever you feel misunderstood, this is your reaction. Well, I know that I'm reacting this way because I feel misunderstood. Okay, well, how do you stop yourself from going to that reaction? Yes, you know that's why, because you feel misunderstood. Now let's handle the misunderstood feeling. Let's handle rewriting that so that we don't keep finding ourselves in that boat. I know that I hate when I feel like people are trying to little boy me or little girl me, I hate when I feel like people are talking down on me, because all my life I felt as though I had to be an adult. I had to get it out the mud. I had to figure it out myself, right? So when I feel like somebody's trying to act like they schooling me on something, it triggers me and it makes me angry. Right? Okay, I've realized that this is why it makes me act like this. Now, how do I make it where you can't get to me that way? Where I'm not claiming that feeling, where nothing that you can say to me could even make me feel as though that's what you're trying to do. And if that is, all right, that has nothing to do with me. When do we get to that point? That's self-leadership. Where things get tricky is because that awareness feels like you're being productive. It feels like you're changing things. It feels like shit is working. You're thinking, you're reflecting, you're journaling, you're praying more, you're unpacking the thing. You now know how to name your trigger. You now know how to talk about your attachment style. You can identify it. Your nervous system, whatever, your inner child, your childhood wounds, you can name the thing, right? And none of that is wrong at all. But without knowing what to do with it, it becomes a loop. When really self-awareness is supposed to be the bridge between you being able to lead yourself into growth. You keep arriving to the same realizations, and you probably are proud of, and I know for me, when I first started to really become self-aware, damn, this is why I do these things. It makes me feel grown. It makes me feel like, damn, I'm proud that I can articulate it. It makes me feel well-rounded, right? Now, my behavior probably is largely unchanged, but I can articulate it. I feel good about that. But people that stay there, if it doesn't click to you that you are self-aware without any action beyond that, you will become emotionally articulate, right? But in reality, stagnant. You can explain exactly why you stay too long. You can explain exactly why you tolerate inconsistency, why you procrastinate, why you avoid accountability, why you avoid conflict in certain areas of your life, why you sabotage. But it never actually turns into fixing the thing. So now you just use the awareness as a way to narrate your problem, but you don't solve it. So over time, the narration of it, the act of being able to explain the thing just kind of sounds like words. Because if you understand yourself well enough, you start to feel like that understanding should be enough. That should count. I'm smart. What I've realized is that, understanding things without actually doing anything about it doesn't really move your life forward. It doesn't. It just makes the fact that you're not moving sound reasonable. Like, this is why, because I can name the thing. Before I keep going, we're going to take a quick pause. If you've been rocking with Her Revision for a while, you already know this podcast is supported by intentional partnerships and my own creative work. If you want to support the show, check the links in the description, whether that's the newsletter, the playlist, or just sharing the episode with someone who needs it. We'll be right back. I think that self-leadership begins when that awareness ends, right? It's the moment when you stop asking yourself, why am I like this? And you start asking, like, given what I know about myself, what am I choosing to do about it? What am I choosing now? How will I do things differently? Leadership is not about you perfecting the way that you can explain your emotion. It's not about perfection at all. It's honestly going to be quite fucking hard. Because it's not, I don't want the assumption to be that you'll never feel conflicted again. That you won't, because no, that's not it. It is definitely a bridge. It is definitely a journey, and you get better as you continue to move, as you continue to act, because you have to figure it out along the way. But what I will say about self-leadership that it's about responsibility. You have a responsibility to yourself and essentially to others too, to do something with that awareness. Is you realizing that when you do become clear, when you have garnered enough clarity, that it does require obligation for you to be accountable. Okay, you see the pattern. So now it's up to you to determine how long you're going to stay in that pattern. So what does this look like? Of course, y'all already know I'm going to give y'all a couple tips and shit, I think that, it does show up in ways that are not necessarily glamorous. Like, nothing about it will be like this beautiful step process. Or this shit going to be very much mundane. But the long run of it, you start to realize, damn, there are things about me. The only way that I can get better as a person is by changing things. And I am working on it actively. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. I feel better knowing that the awareness is not where it stops for me. Because there are still patterns in my life that I'm repeating. And it's like, damn, I feel smarter. Why the fuck is things not changing? Because I haven't led myself out of the pattern. I've just realized that the pattern is a thing. So this may look like building routines that you don't negotiate with yourself on. So for me, even I'll name something is that I know that the pattern that I found myself in is that I was a procrastinator. I like when I'm talking heavy procrastinator, y'all, heavy. And there are several things that I identified about myself that put me in this boat, mainly because the mundaneness of doing the same thing that didn't garner me instant recognition, that didn't get me instant success. I was looking for things to happen quickly. And if I felt like it didn't, or if I didn't see the end result of it, it would take me a lot longer to actually get it started. Another thing was the fear of failure, the fear that nobody gave a fuck about the thing that I was doing. So like it made me prolong shit a lot longer than I should have. And me realizing that about myself and realizing that was the reason why I put a lot of stuff off, why I do. And it, that's specifically centered around like my career and things of that sort. But even I'd say procrastination in terms of like little things, like things that I do around the house. I blamed it on my mental fog. Like if I wasn't, and I'm not saying I blamed it, like, that's not a valid enough reason. But, if there were things going on where I just didn't mentally feel like I was good, I procrastinate. I'm aware of that. I know that I do that. So how do you get yourself out of that pattern? For that specific example, for me, that means creating a routine that I do every morning that doesn't necessarily get me there. So for me personally, let's just say something as simple as cleaning up my house and not waiting to the last minute when everything is everywhere. Every morning, there would be something that so even if that's making my bed, is picking up shit that I got kind of like scattered or whatever the case may be, throwing it away immediately, clearing my couch before I leave the house, hanging my coat up, things like that. What that does is it helps me not get to that place where things are all piled up. Now that activates the procrastination, because I know that I have to be very overwhelmed for me to get there. When it comes to career and my passion and what I'm doing and what I want to do in my life, procrastination kicking in, that would look like me setting boundaries that don't require, a long ass explanation or, me having to emotionally prepare. So I have dedicated, y'all, I'm so proud of myself because I would wait to the last minute. But what I've realized is that when I do things in advance and I give myself like a good amount of leg room to do stuff or to accomplish something, it helps me better. So for example, I've been doing a lot of mass producing episodes way ahead of time so that I have a lump sum of things prepared in advance. I won't be scrambling to find, and I feel so much clearer because I'm working ahead. Do yourself a favor and make life easier for yourself, okay? And that's just me talking about something like procrastination, but even with building routines, choosing consistency over shit having to be intense or perfect helped me a lot. It is less about how deeply you feel about something and more about how reliably you act on the thing. Are you reliable to yourself? What I'm realizing is that because of this, leadership to me feels more heavier than awareness, because leadership removes that illusion that you're helpless. You can no longer say you didn't know. You can no longer wait on clarity or for you to have an aha moment. You already have it. Now the question is whether you're willing to organize your life around it. You're self-aware, now what? Most people, even if it is a trait of yours, and I don't want to even say trait, but I'm gonna say it for lack of better words, if of laziness or whatever the case may be, but most people don't not do the work because of laziness or they're incapable. They don't do the work because it requires you to lose something. Me deciding to lead my life after coming to conclusions about myself requires loss, and a lot of it is like this familiarity of pattern, because it's so easy to fall into what you know. Even if you know why you do something, and it's so easy to stay stuck in it. You've learned how to survive with this routine, with this pattern. You will more than likely lose access to people, lose access to relationships that may benefit from your lack of boundaries. When you self-lead, that means that certain things you're going to have to stop doing, and that may cost you people, places, things, experiences, at least temporarily. And that's uncomfortable. So when you decide to not just be aware, but to lead yourself out of that awareness, beyond that awareness, you may lose the version of yourself that got sympathy or empathy because of whatever that pattern is, because of whatever that trigger is, that trauma, that wound. You're going to lose that version of yourself, but you're going to get results for the woman that you're supposed to be. Yes, that was your life story. Yes, that sucked. Damn, that was a hard situation to go through. But because you are now leading yourself out of that pattern, it is going to feel and look very different that comfort. And I think that's what people need to realize is comfort sometimes doesn't necessarily have to have a positive implication. Like you think comfort and you think, oh, that means that I'll be happy with it. No, you could have a piss poor pattern. You could have a piss poor routine that you do, a piss poor thing that keeps you stuck, and you're comfortable there because it's familiar. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you, but it's familiar. Chaos could be comforting. If you haven't stepped out of that, that could be comforting to you unknowingly. Shit, unwillingly, I guess, but you lose that comfort of staying in a certain area or stage of your life instead of confronting reality and deciding to move. Awareness allows you to stay in like conversation, in reflection, in theory. You stay there. But leadership, that's where the action comes in. And the action is going to expose the fuck out of you. It's going to show you how capable you are of putting your money where your mouth is. And when you are self-led and you start doing the work for real, there is nobody left to blame for the reason why you are where you are except for you. Because there is also no one left controlling your direction. There is no one left keeping you in that loop. That level of choice, that level of autonomy is empowering. We talk about feeling proud of the fact that we're self-aware. Imagine how proud you're going to be when you actually are self-led. But it is going to require you to confront yourself and trust yourself enough to move without needing constant reassurance, without needing applause. Because when you start to self-lead, it might be crickets because it's outside of your norm. So if it's outside of your norm, that means more than likely it's outside of other people's norms for you. And a lot of the times for a lot of people that feels more dangerous than you staying stuck where you were, than you still doing the same thing. The difference between awareness and leadership becomes a lot more obvious when you look at patterns and things that you've done over time in different areas of your life. For example, for me, when it came to dating, awareness was me recognizing red flags. It was me being able to see, and y'all know, if y'all familiar with my TikToks, my reels, you know that I'm good for naming, especially when it comes to dating, is misaligned with me. It was me realizing that I stayed in certain situations because, the emotional attachment felt a lot stronger than the clarity. That was me being aware. Not necessarily that I got out of them, but I was aware of it. And even if you are aware, sometimes your awareness will allow you to name the thing and be like, I'm not putting up with that again. But because you haven't actually moved from it, you end up there again. But leadership sounds a lot like you disengaging earlier. Maybe that pattern was about to show up again until you was like, you know what, I'm going to cut this shit short because I already know how this goes. And mainly because you trust yourself a lot more than your hope that thing will change, even if the situation doesn't, even if the pattern doesn't. Let's talk about awareness in regards to work. You being able to understand burnout, to understand when, that job might not align with you, when you're dissatisfied with what you do, what your career is, while continuing to not explore what you may want your lifelong career to be, while continuing to complain and not do anything about it. That's where the awareness kicks in. Damn, I'm aware that I don't like this. I'm aware that I'm burning out. I'm aware that I'm misaligned. But when you are self-led, when you have self-leadership, that looks like you creating an exit plan. A lot of us don't, even when it comes to work, we hate our job. So instead of actually doing something about it, instead of actually knowing how to go from there, instead of actually creating our exit plan, we complain about it, but then we talk about how the job market is trash, so that's why I haven't applied to different places. Or I have and it didn't work out, so I stopped. We stop when it starts being uncomfortable. But that's what leadership looks like. It is creating that exit plan, even when, it is going to take time. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take you being uncomfortable. The difference between awareness and leadership also shows up in your friendships. You could clock the fact that you may have uneven support when it comes to your friendships. Or like you can clock the fact that people get weird around certain things that you may say, or, things that make you happy. You can clock that. But your leadership is going to make sure that you adjust the access that these people get, that you adjust your expectations for these types of relationships. Instead of you letting resentment build up, instead of you waiting for shit to boil over or waiting for some big moment to call it quits, you are leading yourself out of certain situations after the awareness happens. You're not waiting on life to happen to you. And the biggest one to me, and I want y'all to hear me when I say this, also, difference between awareness and leadership shows up heavily in your spirituality and your faith. Because awareness allows you to believe deeply. Believe in whatever you believe in. I believe in God deeply and what I know that he can do, my spirituality, my path. I believe in it all. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it allows you to move. The awareness allows you to believe, but the leadership allows you to understand that trusting in what God can do is not passive, which means that you can't only move, you can only do things when it's certain, when you know you're about to get a result after. When that clarity comes, you move. When you realize that, damn, I believe in what God can do, I move in whatever way that may look like for my life. I don't wait until I know that I'm going to get a return on my investment. No. Is you knowing that I believe, I'm aware in the fact that God can do it. I don't need to know because I believe that he can. I think in this, like I said, in this societal culture, I don't even know if that's a term. I don't know. I'm just making shit up. But in this societal culture, a lot of people have been taught, whether that be, from the internet or whatever, that they have been taught how to understand themselves without being taught how to govern themselves. So we talk about being vulnerable. We talk about expression. We talk about, being aware and introspective of yourself. But we a lot of the times avoid conversations, or people avoid the parts that are centered around discipline and structure and having authority over your life, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because it sounds like you're not feeling. It sounds very rigid. It sounds very routine, by the book. Healing that does not restore your ability to move is not fully healing. It's incomplete. The goal of healing is not you being able to reflect forever. You have to be able to lead your life with intention. You're not healing so that you can explain why you do the shit you do. You heal so you can choose differently than what you are doing. And we got a lot. Let me tell y'all, I'm not saying this because I'm there. Because, child, I be doing some shit. Falling into patterns I shouldn't be falling into, okay? We are human. But what I'm saying is, when you know better, you do better. And that saying, people stop at the no. But what are you doing? And it's little things at a time. I'm not saying you need to go on a full, okay, now I'm going to self-lead myself, so I'm about to make a whole 180. No, it's going to take time. But in order for you to inch yourself out of those patterns, there has to be something else that you do. For every pattern that you find yourself in, you need to make a new healthy pattern to counteract that thing that you may do. So stop explaining yourself to people that keep letting you or watching you make the same decisions, the same cycles over and over again. That shit could be a part of the problem too. When you accept that, clarity is not just, I feel good about the fact that I know that it is demanding, that once you reach clarity, now work has to be done. You are able to start that shift. Your life deserves direction, the right direction. It don't just deserve you understanding. When you got the insight, but you don't have the execution, you're going to always be tired. You're going to always be frustrated. You're going to always be feeling like, damn, life is not moving. It's not doing what it needs. What is it, God? Because you're waiting. You're aware that he can do it. You're aware that you're waiting on that thing, but you're not doing anything about it. If this episode felt, confronting, if it felt like I was snatching your edges like they like to say I do, that means that you are one step closer to being self-led. You don't need no more language, friend. You don't need to have another aha moment. You know enough. What's being asked of you now is to step into that leadership. That's how you revise. So I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate the podcast. Until next time. Bye.